Hello everyone, welcome to my Moon Elemental Extra Stage Guide. Instead of featuring specific themes, I'll be focusing on the mechanics of this stage and the common ways to get around them. Before we begin, I should warn you that this is the endgame content. If you do not have a strong box of characters, and more importantly, a good understanding of the game's combat mechanics, it's going to be very difficult for you to complete this stage. The enemies have 7 barriers each. Iku has 3 gauges and the bunnies have 2. If you're not familiar with the gauge burst mechanic, each gauge basically represents an additional HP bar. Additionally, when the gauge is broken, a special skill is activated, most notably Switch Lock and Graze Lock on the bunnies. Next, I'll be talking about the enemy's skills. To summarize, Iku resists a lot of bullet types and the bunnies grant their whole team elemental resistances. Note that all enemies also naturally resist all elements except Moon. Factoring in their massive health pools, this means that a full break is almost necessary in order to deal significant damage. This will also allow you to kill her without letting her go below 50% HP and use that annoying defensive skill. When trying to full break, you also have to consider Iku's spellcard effects. Spellcard 2 heals 2 anomalies, such as Poison or Paralyze, and her last word restores 4 barriers. Iku uses her spellcards in order from 1 to 3 and then cycles back. To sum this up, we got a full break to deal damage, but that won't be easy. The simplest way to break the barriers is to use Moon Elemental bullets. However, you may not have enough Moon bullets, and that's where Anomaly Breaks comes into play. To illustrate this, I'll be showcasing a team which uses Poison, Paralyze, and Moon elements in order to full break enemies. Minoriko can break Poison and Paralyze barriers on her spellcard 1 and 2 respectively, and both on her last word. Combined with Medicine's and Iku's ability to inflict Poison and Paralyze, this makes for some great breaking potential. On turn 1, immediately use Medicine's skill 2. Make sure Iku has 2 poison and the bunnies have either 2 or 3 poison. If any of the bunnies have 1 poison, use Medicine's skill 1 on it. Then I use Medicine's spellcard 1 to further inflict poison, with the Maria Anniversary story card to restore barriers. Minoriko and Yomu take advantage of the Wits of Scarlet Dream story card in order to gain power for future turns. On turn 2, Medicine basically does the same thing as turn 1, inflicting poison on enemies with spellcard 3. Here is where Minoriko really shines, breaking all the poison barriers with a boosted spellcard 1. Make sure you equip an accuracy story card so she doesn't miss. Yomu is still getting ready to nuke, we'll see how well she does next turn. On turn 3, I switch out Medicine for Iku, and I use spellcard 3 to gain some power with the Wits of Scarlet Dream story card, as well as help Yomu deal some damage against enemy Iku. Yomu gets to nuke with a fully powered last word, breaking the last barrier and dealing a lot of damage. Instead of killing enemy Iku, I leave her at low HP so she will remain stunned next turn because of the full break. This is important because the bunnies will activate their Gauge Burst skill, and we will be unable to graze for 1 turn. This is one way to get around Graze Lock if you have squishy characters that might die to Iku's shots. Instead of delivering the full break on the same turn as the nuke, you can use a nuker like Rebirth Reimu or Yukari that has focus up and can tank the bullets. On turn 4, Iku will kill off Iku with a triple boosted spellcard 1. Minoriko and Yomu are kinda just waiting around. Minoriko is waiting to break Paralyze and Yomu's waiting for the Switch Lock to end. Turn 5 and it's time for more action. Iku has 1 Moon Break on the boosted spellcard 4, which then inflicts 2 Paralyze on all enemies. I use the Witch of Scarlet Dream story card again to gain more power. Minoriko then breaks the Paralyze barriers with a boosted spellcard 2. Accuracy is not needed here, because Paralyze reduces enemy evasion. Instead, I just use Maria Anniversary story card for party-wide barrier restoration. It is important for Iku to move before Minoriko, and this will always happen because she has higher agility. In the meantime, Yomu is still waiting for Switch Lock to end. Turn 6 is similar to turn 5, but Iku uses 3 boosts for an additional Moon Break. I use a Yang Up story card to prepare to nuke. It is important for Minoriko to break Paralyze last turn as well as this turn, so that Iku's Moon Breaks land on healthy barriers. Yomu can finally switch. He uses her skills for attack link and switches over to Suika, who prepares to nuke. Now Iku and the buddies are full broken and ready to receive a big damage number. Iku's character ability grants her 1 level of Yang attack per boost. Suika has a similar character ability which grants her 1 level of Yang attack per graze. And of course, Minoriko is here to provide moral support. With just 1 enemy left, things get a little simpler. I spend turns 8 to 10 trying to break Iku with Medicine's remaining spell cards. However, I forgot to take into account Iku's spell card too, which will heal 2 anomalies. In the end, I still managed to full break Iku by using Raisin's spell card. I wasn't sure if 1-star Raisin had enough damage to kill with a last word, so instead I used a spell card to do damage. This allowed me to save some spell cards to full break Iku again. Before using Raisin's spell cards to break, I stall for another 2 turns. This is to avoid Iku's last word, which will restore 4 barriers for herself. Unfortunately, Medicine ran out of barriers and died. Fortunately, everything else went according to plan and I won on turn 16. This is how you can replace Iku with Eirin. Make sure Eirin has enough agility to outspeed Minoriko. Now that you have a rough idea of how the fight goes, I'm gonna explain how you can construct a team with the characters you have. You need to balance breakers and nukers so you have enough breaks to full break and enough damage to kill them off. Instead of full breaking, you can try using debuffs, but you're gonna have to work around enemy elemental and bullet type resistances. If you want to consistently farm this stage, there are some additional things to consider. When using auto replay and auto rematch, the game remembers Iku's last used spell card between runs. To get around this, make sure Iku either doesn't use any spell cards, uses exactly 3 spell cards, or account for the 4 barriers restoration every time she uses a spell card. As usual, when farming you can't rely on RNG like medicine skill or inaccurate breaks. That's it for this video and I hope you learned something new about the game's mechanics.